Hello my friends, my name is Rich and welcome to Greatest Rock and Metal. On Greatest Rock and Metal I talk about what are for me the greatest rock and metal albums, bands, gigs of all time, based on listening to thousands of albums and going to hundreds of gigs over many years. Please press the red button to subscribe to the channel. It's free, it's easy to do, it won't take you very long. Thank you very much. Today I am going to be talking about the band Opeth, and more specifically the 30th anniversary of one of their greatest, if not the greatest, album that Opeth have done, titled Blackwater Park. Did I say 30th anniversary? I meant to say 20th anniversary. Sorry about that. 20th anniversary. Now, a little bit late on the 20th anniversary of this album because it was released. What's wrong with me today? It was released in March 2001 and now it's obviously August. Yeah, I got that bit right. But this is a 30th anniversary edition and it's taken quite a few months to get to me because I think because of COVID, the vinyl market is a little bit slow nowadays. I believe there is something like a 9-month backlog on vinyl, which is ridiculous, but it also shows how very, very popular vinyl sales are now. So, what about Opeth? Well, I first got into Opeth with this album, the Ghost Reveries album. And it was when I heard the song The Grand Conjuration. This was way back in 2005, but by that time this was actually their 8th studio album, so I was very, very late to the party. I hadn't really taken much notice of them up until seeing that video and hearing that song, which I thought was a fantastic, brilliant song. And that's what made me then start to delve further into the discography of Opeth. And of course, as I went backwards, I found the Blackwater Park album, amongst many, many other great albums in their discography. What's pretty unusual about Opeth is they've really mixed up their music over the years. So, a little bit of history of Opeth. They formed in Sweden in 1989, and really they've become almost the solo outfit of the lead guitarist, vocalist, and the main songwriter, a guy by the name of Michael Ekeveld. Now, I have no idea if I have said that correctly. There will be a Swedish pronunciation. I call him Michael Ekeveld, and if I'm wrong, shoot me. I'm sorry about that. Okay, and he's pretty much been their leader since 1992. And there's been really quite a revolving lineup of band members who have worked with him on all of these albums. I would say the band has kind of had 3 eras, that's my take on it anyway, of very different approaches to their music. Their first era is pretty much their first 4 albums, which are very much in the death metal style, but with a progressive sound to them as well. The next era, I would say, starts with Blackwater Park and goes all the way up to the Watershed album. And that's really the period where I think Opeth were at their greatest, where they had this ability to mix their death metal along with all sorts of different musical styles. It was like the perfect amalgamation of prog death metal for them. They introduced acoustic, classical, and you've got the rock and the metal styles there. There's a bit of jazz thrown in as well. You've got a mix of the clean vocals and the guttural vocals, or cookie cutter vocals as some people call it, cookie monster vocals. whatever, the vocal style. And that is their second era for me. And then they started to move away from that, and their last 4 albums have been a real roller coaster ride of musical styles. A lot more traditional progressive rock music, a lot less of the guttural vocals, a lot more clean singing, a lot more classical influences in there as well. And in the more recent times, I must be honest, I missed that vocal aggression and overall aggression in their musical style as well. Although in their more recent album, they seem to have moved back a little bit towards that. Although they threw another curveball with their more recent album. By the main release, they released it in 2 versions. The main release being it was all sung in Swedish. So, but they did do an English version as well. So let's have a look at this album. It's a beautifully presented album. It came in a variety of coloured vinyl editions. It's a double album, gatefold, with eerie looking photo reminiscent of Black Sabbath earlier days photos in there. And then you've got the songs on the back. And then I was lucky enough to grab the edition that came with a signed print. This is just the hype sticker that was on the front of the album. And here is a signed print, which, to be honest, is one of the naffest autographs I've ever seen. I know they got to do a lot of these. I believe there's 500 of them. But seriously, you could do a better autograph than that, Michael. And the fact that it's only his autograph kind of proves what I was saying before. This is very, very much his band. And then inside you have the album sleeves. This is one of them, again featuring a picture of the band. And this particular coloured vinyl is described as smoky black transparent vinyl. There you go. And I won't grab out the other vinyl, but I'll show you the other inner sleeve. More of the artwork there. And then the final part of it, you have a very nicely presented booklet with a bit of blurb about the band and the history of this album. And then you have more photos, artwork there. And then eventually we get to the lyrics as well, and the credits, and some more I believe fan submitted photos, montage, collage there. Nice booklet, that nice booklet. So as always, I'm going to tell you what I believe are my favourite 4 tracks from the album. But before we do that, let's take a look at Rock Albums by the Pool. Okay, so what are my favourite 4 from this album? Well, it starts off with the first track on the album, The Leper Affinity. Now, this has got what I call a trick start to it. You can kind of hear, you put it on for the first time and you hear this kind of music, but it's very, very low level. So, of course, you go and crank up the volume and then after a few seconds, boom! you get this massive riff blowing your head off, the explosion of the guttural vocal, and we're into a song about murder, I think, maybe even necrophilia or rape, or maybe a mixture of all of it, and really straight into the death. Great riffs, brilliant guitar soloing on this, and then all of a sudden, halfway through the song, it just drops down, and we get like an acoustic interlude with some beautiful clean vocals from Michael, and clean harmonies, and then all of a sudden we're back into the metal, and then right at the end we finish with a piano outro. And this song, Leper Affinity, perfectly demonstrates the Opeth trademark almost for them, and is one of the greatest songs in their catalogue. Brilliant way to start this album. The next track I would choose is the third track, and now it really takes it down. The track Harvest. This is a completely different kind of track to Leper Infinity. It's a superb acoustic song, absolutely brilliant acoustic bass song, fantastic melody and vocals, and the metal may be gone, but the death is still there, as the song seems to be about the last moments of somebody's life. Now, one of the things I'll say, these are my interpretation of the lyrics. One of the things about Opeth lyrics is that for sure there's many potential interpretations, but a lot of the times in these days it was related to death, of course. The next track I would choose comes after Harvest, The Drapery Falls. Now, we're into a combination of styles here. We've got some acoustic initially, and in fact it reminds me very much of Pink Floyd, the first part of this song, and then in the second half of the song we're into the death prog, and here I think it seems to be about an abusive relationship. And the vocal style in the first half, you've got very much the clean vocals, which for me kind of represents the person being abused, and then the second half we're into the and a lot more aggressive, and probably that's the abuser. I like to think of it that way. If it's not, then I apologise, but it makes the song seem better for me if we've got these two different vocal styles going on representing the two different people. And then finally we have my choice, finally, the song that closes out the album, a 12-minute, is that 12 minute? 12-minute masterpiece, the title track, Blackwater Park. This is a full-on riff fest. There's all sorts of different riffs going on in this song, and death prog metal going on here as well. It kind of got a Tool sound to it to a certain extent, in the way that some of the riffs just keep repeating and repeating, a trick that Tool do a lot, and they sometimes seemingly seem to be going nowhere, but then we're off into this dark place filled with death, disease, and horrible people, and that's what Blackwater Park seems to represent for me. So there you have it. That's my favourite four on the album. Tough to choose for, because it's a very consistent high level of songs on this album, and certainly it was tough to leave out songs like Bleak, which is very much almost a staple in their live sets. So that's my thought on the album. What about the first time I saw Opeth live? Well, it wasn't until October 2009, and they were the main support band to Dream Theater on what was known as the Progressive Nation tour, and they also had a couple of other bands, Big Elf and Unexpect, playing with them as well. Now, okay, it wasn't their own headlining show, but they were second on the bill, and they were given a lot of time to play, and they were given a fair amount of production as well. And they were supporting the Watershed album, so they played a couple of tracks from that album. They played Hexomega and Lotus Eater. And they played a track from Deliverance, a track from Damnation, from Ghost Reveries, and from My Arms, My Hers. But sadly for me, nothing from Blackwater Park on that particular time that I saw them live. Now, my thoughts on Opeth live, on the times that I have seen them, and on this particular time. Musician-wise, musically, they are outstanding. They really are brilliant players. Michael's vocals, the power of the gutter on the studio albums is far greater than it is live, and I can kind of see maybe why he's veered away from that in more recent times, because his clean singing voice is absolutely superb, but the guttural vocals live just don't quite have that full-on oomph that you get from maybe a Chuck Billy of Testament, who's got massive power behind him. And some of that might be able to do with the body size as well. You know, Michael's a relatively slim, short guy. You look at Chuck Billy, he's a man-mountain. But it's okay, it works, but it was just noticeable that it didn't have the full-on aggression that you get from the albums. The other thing about Opeth as well, now they have improved this over the years, but they can be a little bit boring when at this particular time they didn't have the biggest production in the world. Now they've brought in, like a lot of bands, the big LED screens behind them, and that makes it a bit more interesting, and some of the band members have got a bit of energy about them, but they're not the most interesting of bands to see live. But although I say that at this particular time they weren't, they have got better for sure. One of the highlights of the show, along with the music, because they are, you know, brilliant musicians and a lot of the songs are fantastic live, is Michael himself and the way he talks to the crowd. He's got a brilliant style in the way, a very self-deprecating style in the way he talks to the crowd, and it really is quite entertaining, his little monologues between songs. And it's one of the unique things that Opeth have when you see him live, and most of the time it really does work. You've got these huge prog metal, death prog metal song, and then you've got this guy telling a few jokes in between the songs. Brilliant. So they're not a casual band to see live. Some bands you can, rock and metal bands, they put on a show, and even if you're not that into the music, you can have a great time. With Opeth, you've really got to be into the music to enjoy their live shows, and if you are, you're going to have a great time. Thank you very much for watching. Please press the red button to subscribe to the channel. It's free, easy to do, won't take you very long, and remember, as always, we rock!